episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday, I have the privilege of coming to you to talk about money, life, and everything else. We say on this show, money encompasses everything. Why? Because it does. It does encompasses everything. So tonight's topic is so important to me because trust is everything as well. So we say on this show that, trust is important because in every relationship, you need trust, whether it is a business relationship or personal relationship, but establishing trust is a process. And tonight, we'll talk about how do you establish long-term trust so that you can have successful relationships and also successful business and successful communities. So the questions that we're going to be going over tonight is, what is trust? How is it achieved? And for someone like me who worked in business for a long time and been in business for a long time, I've heard so much about antitrust laws. And for those of you who are familiar, we'll talk a little bit about that. Why is it important for companies to adhere to those laws? Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's important for personal and business. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my friends who are on tonight. We have two new friends who are on tonight, and that's Barbara Cajus and Jeff Paul. Why don't we start with the lady? Barbara, please introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll have Paul introduce himself, and then we're going to dive into this very important conversation about trust. Trust matters.
So, hello. Again, my name is Barbara Cajus. I'm born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm currently the regional HR director for a distribution company in Boston, and trust matters.
Yeah, it does. And you, Jeff?
Hello, hi everybody. My name is Jeff Paul. I am the main minister for a foundation called the Awaken Foundation. And I guess trust is a very important subject for Haitian because for the past 600 years, the society that we are living in has done a very good job dividing us and not trusting each other. So it's going to be a process to learn how to trust one another again. So that's what we talk about.
Yeah, I'm glad you say for people who are from our country, but trust is important for everyone. That's why this topic is important, because I know growing up in this country, having been here for many, many years, everything you do, you gotta have trust. So yeah, we want to define trust. What is trust, Barbara, when you think about it in terms of relationship, business, and as an HR director, how important is trust for your industry?
I would say that trust is a sense of security. Mm-hmm. It's very important in my industry, working in distribution where we sell similar products, with Amazon, staples. So we have a large distribution center and many, many warehouses nationwide. So we have to trust that our employees will not steal from us.
Yeah.
And it's a 24-hour operation. So there's different levels of trust, from all levels.
Yeah, I would agree. What about you, Jeff? when you think about trust in terms of, as a minister, in terms of relationship, interpersonal relationships or romantic relationship, what does that bring to mind?
Well, for me, the term trust can only deal with experience. You understand a situation and you lived it, and you can actually quantify in your head that you can trust the process. The same way, if you have an organization or a business, there'll be laws that will be applied, and you would want people to understand that if they do not have the morality that exists among common people, at least they can follow the laws that a company would put out there so that you don't have any issues. So going through it, you'll understand that experience by not stealing, by not doing a bunch of things, would lead on into a better life. So to me, everything is about experience. Mm-hmm. And when you get to a higher being or higher power, And it's the same thing. You have to experiment God in order to truly trust him throughout the journey that you go through in life. If you don't know him, you'll have faith. But if you do know him, you'll have trust.
Yeah, definitely. I was reading an article online, and I think I shared that with you. The psychologist, I believe she's from another country, but she's a psychologist. Her name is Yeshiva. No, actually, no, Sabrina Vomadov. And she said that it's the basis of a solid relationship. If you don't have that basis, trust is everything in a relationship, because at the end of the day, that's the foundation, in which you can build a relationship. If you don't develop that in your friendships, your romantic relationship, your partnership in business, you are going to have a problem. So trust, to me, when we say on this show, money encompasses everything, how do you build if you don't have trust? So if trust is so important, Barbara, and it's not a given, it doesn't come automatically, how do you build that over time?
Well, I believe that it should be earned. It's not something that's going to happen automatically. It will take time to flourish. And I can give you many examples where, when you hire someone, you bring them on, you do a background check, right?
Yeah.
And once they come on board, there is a probationary period.
Correct.
And the standard probationary period is usually 90 days, but at my company, it's 120 days.
Wow. So 6 months to determine.
4 months.
4 months. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's
So the standard is 90 days, which is 3 months.
Correct.
But my company has made the decision to extend it by 1 more month.
Yeah.
So this way you have basically 120 days to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a mutual thing. It's whether you feel that it's going to work out, you trust us, we trust you. Unfortunately, sometimes even after the 120-day mark, when we think everything is great, and then boom, after 120 days, things start to shift a little bit. So trust is something that needs to be built on every single day, not just during a probationary period.
That's true, because in business, they said that there's a lot of window dressing when you just meet somebody, right? Everybody wants to look good, the first impression. They want to make a great impression. And many times, unfortunately, some folks will go for a job interview and maybe not tell the whole truth, but nothing but the truth on their resume, right? So it's very important that you take the time to really analyze the situation, and you need time to do that. You meet a young person, a young man or a young lady, and you want to get to know that person. It takes time to build trust, because guess what? It takes a lot of work to earn that, but the person, your yes has to be your yes and your no has to be your no, right? Over time, in order for you to build trust. So what about you, Jeff? Jeff, what do you think? What are some of the key components of building trust over time?
Number one, I believe that understanding the character of somebody is a key component toward trust, because everything that you do at first hand, it's a risk. Everything is a risk. You see somebody that you like, you want to talk or hire someone, it's a risk. The thing is, when you start dealing with the person on a personal level or on a business level, understanding the person has a very strong character based in morality. Yeah. That is key, because as soon as you start seeing patterns, then you can actually trust the person to do the moral thing or the right things based on the job at hand or the circumstance at hand. I don't believe that, well, I do believe that trust is something that is earned in time. It takes a lot of time, but I also believe that based on the moral compass that you have, if you do have a very good spirituality where you have a very pronounced God in your life and you have an experience with him and you understand the morality that comes with the very specific laws, your character usually signifies this is who you are as an individual. And it's more likely for you to trust that person than somebody that does not have any morals, even in time.
Yeah, I think character is important, but also to show me receipts. Right, Barbara? I mean, like if you someone if you're gonna be a professional, asserting yourself, saying like, I am a professional here, you can trust me to be, for example, your tax professional, or be your doctor, or be your dentist, be your accountant, or a babysitter, whatever it is that you want to assert yourself as. Show me receipts, show me what you've done before. I think that's one of the way we can substantiate your trust, right? Saying like, this person has done the work. Because I know building trust is something that you, who's going to be giving the trust, you have to do. But also who is receiving the trust has to offer multiple ways for other people to learn how to trust you, right? For
Yes.
me, for example, I think in terms of business, being competent, you telling someone to trust you to do work for them as a professional, but you have not invested anything in your education. You don't invest in training. You don't invest in anything, but yet you saying to someone, a client, trust me, I know what I'm doing. No, you're giving them lip services, right? Lip service, right, Barbara? Do you see that a lot at where you at? Like folks are saying, like, trust me, I can do this, but they won't go to training, or they won't get that certification. How do you feel about that?
Well, I have a saying, and I say this all the time: make sure that you are the person that you're looking for. So if I can't be trusted, I can't expect that you're going to trust me. So, I make sure that I'm very consistent in everything that I say and everything that I do. I value that I am trusted. The fact that I know that the senior team and the owners of the company trust me with their company. And as the first woman of color in my position in such an important role, I know that it didn't come easy for them to trust me. So, I want to be a living example for anyone that I bring on board. And we have a large Caribbean population, a melting pot of different cultures at my company. So there are different belief systems. And, trust is very, very big in our community, the Haitian community. So, it's something that I take very seriously. And I've had many conversations, private conversations behind closed doors with employees, and where I've had to have come to Jesus conversations, is what I call them, as a way to just make them understand that, we work for a company that values, the Caribbean or Haitian population. They understand that we're hardworking, but, don't put me or the company in a position where we have to question your integrity. And so that's something that needs to be earned, and help me so that I can help you.
Yeah, help me help you. It's very important. At the same time, too, as we say, trust is at the basis. It's very important. And you gotta learn how to develop that over time and do the work. Whether you are the one giving it or the one receiving it, you have to do the work. At the end of the day, too, nobody is infallible. We will fall short, right? For all have sinned, right? So when you have fallen short, what does it take to rebuild trust? What do you think? Minister Paul, what do you think? What do you think it takes to build trust, not only for an individual but also a business?
So, for an individual, I believe that the term is ethics.
Yeah.
And liability. So the moment that you understand that people trust me to do the right thing, or people depend on me for something to take place, and you fail once, and you still find that people still want to cheer you up because they really do depend on your ability.
Yeah.
This character of going at it again is indispensable. You have to find the courage. You have to find, the motion, and usually, if you into religion, you have to find God, and that gives you the edge, so that people can trust you again because you don't give up, and that's a character that is very huge. For business, it's a little bit different, because you do not marry a person, in the business. It's not a person. Well, I'm sorry. In the commercial world, a person is a business. So I should not say that. You're not marrying an individual, a woman or a man. You're marrying a components of rules and regulation. And the trust that needs to arise from an individual working in an environment like that is to understand, the morality and the goal of the company, what the company is there to do, and how can you truly become an impact within this company and make this company great, because a company will be weak as much as the weakest link within that company. So if you understand that and you still choose to learn about the company, ethics and goals and everything else, and let's say you fail, but yet you still are able to bring back up some of these values and show that you are putting your own personal preference to the side to benefit the whole as the company. So that's why you need to know what type of company you actually want to work for. If it's a company that's there to kill people, do you really want to do this? No, you want to be in a company that actually looks like you and has the same direction and morality as you do. So like that, it's no longer, a burden for you to do the right thing. And I think that comes along with, the corporate aspect of trust.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree in terms of like being able to rebuild trust once you've maybe violated somebody's trust or made a mistake, because again, nobody's infallible. I know for me, working in the environment that I've worked in many years, sometimes you make a mistake, right? Or you're an oversight. The key is to own up to it, own up to your mistakes and not try to brush it off as a miscellaneous situation, or even if it's a relationship, right? You are in a relationship with someone, you've hurt them, you've violated their trust, personal relationship or business relationship. The key is to own up to it and say, hey, recently I was dealing with someone, it's a business relationship, and I know I had made a mistake. The mistake is 2-3 years old, but it came up. And instead of saying, you know what, oh, I didn't know, instead of lying, because some people will find an excuses to cover their mistakes, I owned up to it and I said, listen, whatever this is going to cost you, I'll be responsible for that. Because at the end of the day, the best way to show respect to other people and to earn their trust is to be someone who own up to your mistakes and own up and do no more, right? Just like Jesus said to the woman, go and do no more. Do your best. Nobody's infallible. Would you agree, Barbara? Go and do no more.
I hold myself accountable first before I hold anyone else accountable. So, I look at myself in the mirror and I look in from the outside. I try to envision what folks may perceive of me or how I am viewed, because perception is everything. So, holding yourself accountable is key, because if you can't hold yourself accountable, how can you hold others accountable? And it's trust. It comes down to trust.
Yeah. When you come back and you have to show humility and willing to be truthful, then you are able to earn trust. But if you continue to blow people off after you violated their trust and say, well, I didn't do anything wrong. What are you talking about? Some people actually have bipolar is a clinical issue. But I know there are so many folks who have almost like amnesia, which is also a clinical condition, but they have selective amnesia. They'll forget what they said. They're trying to make you feel like you didn't know the promises. And I've seen that in business as well as in personal relationship. So let's go a little bit deeper with business, because I know I had shared this antitrust laws. In America, if you're a business, you cannot go with other businesses and say, hey, we're going to create this environment so that's going to hurt consumers. Because if I have a business, right, let's say I sell widgets and you sell widgets, right, Barbara, and the two of us are two huge companies, and we decided to monopolize, to take over the market, and fix prices and plot against the consumer, you know that's an illegal act. You cannot lie to your customers. You cannot plot against your customers because the system, the business world is saying, regulations, legislatures are saying, you are in business to be fair. The market must be fair as it's gonna be. And you cannot create situations that's gonna be unfair to others, even though it's gonna be profitable for you. Yeah, you're in business to make money, but it cannot be unfair. How do you feel about that, Jeff? As a minister, how do you feel about that? Like knowing that businesses that you're doing business with, they have regulations to protect you, from being abused and used and misused by them. Although,
I have a very keen way of seeing your question, and I'd like to start it with history.
Yeah.
The first trust was created by the Catholic Party, and it was called the CSQV Trust of 1666. It was a way for the Catholic Party to take whatever people would have as far as goods, wealth, to the Catholic if you were lost at sea. However, they would use that in multiple ways within the commercial arena. And that's very important to understand that mindset. Why is it important? So I believe that when you understand the primary concern that happens when somebody create laws, okay? These laws have a very, peculiar purpose, and it's not righteous. However, they will advertise it so that it becomes righteous because they represent the party under God. As an example, you as an individual have to do your research. It doesn't matter if they promise you the world. It doesn't matter if this is, an elixir that's going to give you the fountain of youth. No, what you have to do is your job on not only making sure the product is right, making sure whatever they're saying, they actually will abide by it. What is the track record? If they don't have any, can I participate in it? Because nobody can tell you no, because the whole idea in commercial law, which is the Admiralty Maritime Law, it's quote unquote contract. What do you choose to do based on the offer? And the bottom line, it's okay, all right, I'm there, I'm doing it. Okay, the profit should come out, and are you going to respect the profit? Well, guess what? Is it really a profit if you're getting ripped off? And how did you know you were going to get ripped off? Did you study the company? Do you understand the company? Do you understand why a trust has to be created in the Admiralty Maritime Law in order to validate somebody's, how would I say it, possible failure to abide by the law that they're trying to promote? That's why a lawyer is always great. That's why they want to put in a lot of provision in a trust law, so that, they know they can do the wrong thing. They know they're going to steal your money. So they'll have to put all the possibility down onto the paper and make sure that the jurisdiction or the people that's going to enforce these laws can actually enforce those laws. So what I believe is, do your homework.
Yeah, do your homework.
Participate.
Yeah, do your homework is important, but unfortunately, not everybody has the capacity or the ability to thoroughly analyze every single piece of legislation or documentation that a company is gonna throw out. I mean, we get prospectus all the time as investors. We get paperwork all the time, and we're not able to decipher for real. So I think it's so important knowing that, there are laws in place because, you and I, we all went to school. I remember the first time I was told, I don't know, I think it was undergrad. I was told that you need to take ethics class, business ethics class. And I was like, why do I need to take an ethics class? Don't we already know what to do?
Yeah.
And I was gullible. And my professor, I remember years ago, he said, Gabrielle, you'll be surprised how many people, when money is involved, how quickly they'll be willing to compromise principles that they even were taught in school. Those who even would call themselves believers or have a standard, a religious standard, they will compromise. That's why in many industries, including the one that I've been in for many years, you have to do continuing education and you have to constantly sign off that you will do what is right. Because if you don't, there are consequences. And I think the antitrust, we call it antitrust laws, they're there to say, listen, you got to do right by your consumers. And if you don't, there will be consequences. And I think individuals also suffer consequences when they don't do right by each other, right? By one another. Correct, Barbara? Yeah. So Barbara, we were having this conversation and we like, what are some of the ways we've had to exercise trust, especially in our communities, in the communities that we're both familiar with? What are some of the ways? And we talked about that, Susu. Can we talk a little bit about that, like in financial services, because we say trust is important in order for you to maximize your potential as a person, and especially your bottom line in business or become financially stable, you have to trust people. You cannot know everything. You have to trust. But of course, he talks about due diligence. How do you, how does the Susu system that we know in Haiti and other third world countries, how is that part of an important way of trusting one another?
Well, there has to be a level of trust because you know that whether you have the funds available or not, every week you have a certain amount that you're giving to an individual that goes into.
Explain Susu for someone who's not familiar with what it is. And have you ever done it yourself? I know I have.
I have not.
Okay.
And so Susu, I've never done it, but it's my understanding that Susu is a group of individuals who have made the decision to come together to work collaboratively to help each person save money. And usually it's for a purpose. Like for instance, if I know that I'm going to purchase a home in about a year, I need to have a certain amount of money in the bank. And let's say, someone decides to put a group together of 10 individuals, and each individual, they have to contribute a total of $1,000.
Right.
So if you divide $1,000 by 12, and actually, you know what? That's not a good example.
You multiply it by 12.
You multiply it by 12. But what happens is these group of individuals, they don't necessarily sign a contract, but there is an understanding that they have to give a certain amount of money to one individual every week. And that individual is a trusted individual that knows that, okay, well, Barbara is number one to receive those funds. Gabrielle is number two. So this week I get, $10,000, right? Because I have the first hand because they're different hands. So depending on how many people you have in the group would determine how many hands, right? And then it also determines, how much money in total collectively that you guys want to put to raise. So what makes Susu difficult is that if I am the first person to get the first hand, I know that even though I have that $10,000 in my hand the first week, next week, I have to contribute so that the next person that has the second hand gets those funds. And then the week after that, the third person, and then the week after that, the fourth person, and so on. So it takes a lot of discipline, but it also takes a lot of trust.
Correct.
And personally, I would not do it.
But is it
knowing,
because you have options, Barbara? Because we were saying, like, I know you mentioned the same thing when we're offline. And I said, Barbara, you have options. You live in the first world country where everywhere you go, at least in my neighborhood, everywhere I go, there's a bank, there's a credit union, there's a place for me to save my money and to do it automatically if I want to. But in countries like our country, and I remember when I was in business school, I was learning about South America, places in South America and even India, where the banking system is not as prevalent as it is here in the United States. Guess what? A susu, the hand that you talk about, is the best way for entrepreneurs, for families to raise funds for projects, because I know entrepreneurs are looking to, they need $10,000 to start a business, or they need $5,500, whatever it is, the amount. They cannot go to a bank and say, I want to get a loan. They don't have credit cards like we do here. They need that. And that's why, because I think you had mentioned it, Jeff, because you have no other options. You need to rely on these people. So that's why many times that trust is built, and you have to trust in order for you to elevate and to get out of poverty, right? Because I know my mother did this. She taught me how to do this. The first time I saved $2,500 was through Susu. The first time. I didn't have a bank account yet. And then I took that money. I was 17. It was $550 a week. And I took that money. When I got my hand, and I went to Baybank and opened up a bank account with $2,500. I was 17, and they're like, where did you get that money? I was like, I saved it. And I was explaining it to the teller, and she's like, really? Never heard of it. So it's not something that is common in our world here, because they have other options. Well, Jeff, did you want to say something about that? How have you ever experienced that, or some of the ways that you've had to build trust with your community?
So the way I see it is, like you said, we live in the first world, and I really don't like that word, but
it is what it is.
It kind of describes what it is,
Yeah.
And there are specific expectations, and you feel that, third world countries may not have the capacity. However, if you spend the time to really analyze, let's say the society and the community in Haiti, you realize that there is a mindset. As an example, la coup. That mindset is it's the epiphany that created the communist and socialist mindset. Oh, yeah. Well, you cannot afford a house, but we're all going to put ourselves together and we will build your house. When it comes a time to go and sell and harvest, we all get together. We do this parcel of land, then we'll do your parcel of land, then we'll do his parcel of land. And you realize by doing it like that, as a community, you strive and you do very well. So when you do spend the time to analyze in technicalities what is the word trust, you actually have to defer to the social aspect of your lifestyle back home. And you realize that the reason why you trust the Lakou, it's because they were all family members, or they were all friends, or we all sleep together, we ate together, and we worked together. Correct. So you find out that, it's not a foreign mindset. It's actually something that I understand. The problem is when you live in an environment that was created to render people divided. And at this point, you're going to find out that if it's about money, it's about status, it's about whatever it is. And then you find out that people are willing to, be distrusted because they feel that they want to go after the money. They want to do something after wealth or after power or after name, whatever it is. And that is a problem. And I think as a community leader, what I like to do is to appeal to people's senses and also participate in everything that you invest yourself into. Because at this point, you understand that if somebody failed, it's because you let them fail. But if you're part of it and you can see it happen and you don't have the courage to voice out your opinion, well, no, it's a no.
Yeah, so you're saying like Jeff, you're saying that people typically are not trusting because they're living outside of the community, or they're living outside. They've decided, let me just finish this, Jeff. They decided that it's best, instead of being part of what needs to be or the cohesive group, the collective, they decided to be individualistic. Because I think not only individualistic in terms of like, oh, I'm gonna be over here because I don't trust anybody. I don't want to be part of the collective. Whereas, in the system of Susu back home and in so many other countries, that's the only option. I know for my parents and for so many people I've known over the years, that was the option. That's how they were able to purchase a home. And now so much better off financially because they had a community to build together. Now, in this country, you have the banking system, but you still have to trust the banking system because we've had history where during the Great Depression, where many banks failed, right? So they have regulations to help protect people at this point here, and also laws and different things to safeguard your finances. But at the end of the day, the reason I wanted to kind of accentuate the part about being away, I worked in banking for many years, and I remember folks coming, Barbara, with their passbook account. That passbook account had $100,000, but they didn't trust to invest it anywhere else. And they were saying like, I want my money here because I can see in the book that I had 100,000, not realizing that there's such a thing as inflation. Right? Inflation is eroding your money. It's losing value every day. And also to their opportunities. But because you refuse to open up and trust and learn, you rejecting something that could help you and your family. What do you say? I mean, like, are you familiar with, I know you've seen this, Barbara, right?
I have. And, we talked a lot, actually. We spoke at length the other day about the subject. And I still feel strongly about it. I think a lot of it comes from just knowing that you have to work hard. You work hard for your money. And, I've seen things, I've heard things, I've seen a lot of people lose their money. There are scammers out there, more so now than ever before. So perhaps if I lived in a third world country, and I had no other options, maybe I would have no choice. And I know that my mother too, believed in Susu and participated in many Susu programs. But knowing what I know now, perhaps that's why I feel the way that I feel. I think it's building credit. And now with the different introductory offers out there, 0 interest, for 24 months. There are options now available to us. So perhaps
what about
perhaps I'm not the right person.
No, what I was thinking though, what about those who are here who do have access to banking and financial services products, and because they still haven't learned, you're saying like I have other options, so I'll exercise those other options. But you would be surprised at many people who would get stuck at the banking level, like the checking, savings, CD level. And then when they have the means, they do have the resources where they could go up to the next level. We talk about the hierarchy of needs. Like Susu is at the very bottom. The next level is the checking and the savings. And then to be able to go to the next level where you're investing in mutual funds and other maybe annuities or other things, financial products. But because, again, this lack of trust, or I don't trust anybody, they're stuck. And because of that, they're not able to materialize or maximize their financial potential. Again,
but it's also education too. I think a lot of us, we were not educated about financial literacy. And the way that I was raised, my mother, every week she would get paid, she would go to the bank and she had that book, her hefty book, and the bank teller would write what they wrote, or there's a machine that actually types the balance, and so that's what I saw. And then as I got older and I started to understand financial literacy, I realize there are other options, but not everyone is educated or knows enough. And I think, parents rely on their children to educate them. But unfortunately, even children sometimes cannot be trusted. So again, it comes down to trust.
Yeah, it comes down to trust, because at the end of the day, if you're not willing to do the work, that's the part, this is such an important topic and we can go on and on about it. But if you're not willing to do the work, whether it is you being able to actively research and learn for yourself, or have humility enough to say, you know what, I'm gonna go over here and get this person. Because I remember for years I was at a church locally and I was offering this class called God, Money, and You. And this class was about financial literacy. It was all about different products and services. I wasn't trying to sell anything. I was just there to give back to my community, saying that this is what you could do. These are some of the options. And you'll be surprised how a few people showed up for that. Because again, if you're not willing to do the work, you will not reap the harvest, because you gotta sow the seed. You gotta do the work in order for you to be able to activate. Because not only with like investments, right? To go quickly, I know insurance. We talked about insurance in our community, and even insurance, you'll be surprised, only 20% of the population that's in any community that had gainfully insured, right? So because again, we have folks saying like, oh, I don't want to have insurance because I don't want somebody to kill me. Do you know anybody who was killed for insurance? But I know many people who have died without insurance, right? So do you want to share a little bit about your recent experience, Jeff, and how, like in terms of like having medical insurance or having like life insurance and different things, because life will happen to you no matter how old you are, right?
I could share with you a little
Because
bit
people
of
are seeing you leaning back here, and I was saying like when the people seeing you leaning back, maybe they might want to know a little bit about your story and what happened to you recently.
Sure. So before I was a minister, I was the CEO of a telecom company by the name of Multimedia IC. We were mostly involved in government contracts and ballistic ammunition and material aspect of things. Then my parents passed away, and I chose to seek God, I believe. But my experience was out of this world, because there are things that I didn't think existed, because I was raised and born. I was born in Haiti, left Haiti at the age of 1. I lived in France for all my life. Not all my life, until the age of 14. Then I came to Boston. Then I've been here since. So there's a lot of things that I was not exposed to, or if I was exposed to them, it was on TV. And what I realize is that now there are really very much concrete and real thing out there. And so that experience brought me to the point where I had a message as a minister, because I became a minister right after that. And I realized that it was the hardest thing to do, is to teach people about being objective, not staying subjectively involved in being stuck to a way that does not work, being a fanatic of a very particular mindset or religion, and understand that God, you can see his glory through a lot of things. And when you do experience those things, you actually become whole. But through the whole process, I started to lose trust in people, because I realized that I was dealing with a lot of fanatics. I'll explain to you what fanatics are. Haiti and Brazil playing soccer where in Haiti, in the stadium of Haiti, 99.9% of the people in that stadium are vouching for Brazil. How do you feel your player? You can't. So I felt so much, distrust. And I'm like, you know what, God, it's not for me, man. I don't think I want to do this anymore. And so I did a lot of things that were against the contract that I had with him. And I had an accident. So a car accident. I believe I was dead at the scene. He woke me up. I was paralyzed from the chest down. So I could not urinate on my own, or I still cannot do that. Bowel movement on my own. I cannot walk. I cannot turn. I couldn't use my hands. And I find out that, you know what, the doctors will not, doesn't know what the prognosis will look like because it's spinal, it's nerves, so they don't know. So I felt betrayed at the moment. And then I realized something. There was a reason why I had to go through that. And I needed to find out why. Why did he leave me alive? And throughout the journey, he showed me what I've done wrong. And I needed to trust him. Don't do the same thing as Jonas did. He sends you to do something, just go out there and get it done. You don't care about how it's done, you just do it. Let him do the rest. And that's the trust that I've learned to acquire. But it went one stage and one step further. I realized that because I was unable to do anything, I had to trust keen people in my life. What I found out is that my immediate family was not there for me. The people that I didn't think was going to be there for me, they show up. And the only thing that they said is, while you were able, you were there for me, so I'm always going to be there for you. And I felt so small because I realized for the first time that God, when he has a purpose for you and he needs you to learn, because the message that you have is so profound, you have to grow through this particular principle to understand that you are nothing without the community that you serve. You are nothing without the friends that you have. You have nothing because of if you don't have those people that choose to be or stay family. And that for me was the principle behind the Awaken Foundation. And I just learned a valuable lesson because I don't think I would have ever learned it any other way the best as I did, which led me to understand how to bring people to help themselves through banking, as an example, because we're talking about banking. So we are opening something called the Diaspora Heritage Credit Union because the community needs to trust in themselves and each other. We cannot rely on others, but those who actually prove themselves. And the only way for you to prove yourself, if you trust yourself to be part of a process to help yourself. And you're going to find out that it works. If you help others, they will help you. And if you don't have a very skewed notion of hurting or being skydiving, if you don't have a bad intention in your bone and you're doing it because of love or caring, the term karma does exist. And that's what I found out the hard way.
Thank you for sharing, Jeff. I really appreciate it because I know when I was having this lengthy conversation with you, I was very impressed by the fact that you've gone through such an ordeal, a tough situation, a life-changing accident, but you're not bitter. You're not someone who's pointing fingers. You're using your experience to serve others. And that's the most important thing. I do this show, Let's Talk Money with Friends, and we have discussions like this so that we can have those who are watching, those who have given themselves the opportunity to watch, an opportunity so that they can go off and have their own discussions about this. Trust matters. You cannot make the excuse, I don't trust anybody, so I'm going to go over here, and you're not part of the collective. Because at the end of the day, if you're not part of the collective, guess who's losing? You are. You are losing big. You are losing big if you are not part of the collective, because no man can do it by themselves. No one is an island. You got to learn how to trust people. You got to learn how to trust businesses. And you got to learn how to trust institutions. And you got to learn how to trust God, of course. I know that's big for me. And the way you do that is by doing the work. Right, Baba? We had mentioned you do the work. If you have the ability, the education, the bandwidth to do the work so that you can learn, because there's work to be done. You don't wake up one day and have muscles. You gotta go to the gym and exercise. And building trust is the same thing. You gotta do the work. Being on the outside ain't gonna work. You gotta be inside and do the work. Now, if you're not able because you don't have all the resources that you need, intellectual resources, or the time required to do the work, commission your kids. I used to tell my clients all the time, if you cannot do a research about what I can do for you, because I have the pedigrees, I have the credentials. If you don't know what that is, have your kids Google it online. Have your kids ask the questions, because you gotta use people around you. I know my mother, the other day I was joking. I say, Ma, your secretary's on the line? That's me. I'm her secretary, because every time she needs to decipher, process something that she's not familiar with, she would call one of us and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Can you take a look at it for me? Because that humility is very important. Again, you cannot be on the outside. You have to be part of the collective in order for you to succeed and in order for us all to succeed. Since we all here are Haitian, I know I've been watching the canal situation in Haiti. And the only reason this is succeeding, and I would pray and hope it will continue to succeed, is because of the collective work of everybody. No one can do it by themselves. But in order for you to be able to do that collective work, what do you need, Barbara?
Trust.
You need trust. And what do you need, Jeff?
Consistency and trust in God.
Trust in God and trust in one another, because God is over here, but one another is what you see. You gotta trust other people. You gotta do the work in order for you to be able to trust one another. So as I said, we could go on and on and on, but we have to say goodbye tonight. Please continue with this conversation because it matters. Every Wednesday we are here live to talk about important topics. And I'm so grateful, my friend Barbara. Not only do I trust her, I love her dearly. She's so busy.
Love you too.
Barbara is so busy, but Barbara is like, yes, I'll do it this time for you. And I'm so grateful. And Paul, I call him Paul, Jeff, because of I know where you're at right now in your situation, and you said yes to me. I'm very grateful for that. And please come back. Please come back. Please share, like, make a comment. Let your friends know that we're here every Wednesday and we're having conversations that are relevant and timely. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good night and see you next week. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.